So I had this patient, right? And he was all here. He was all bent way too far forward. And his head was further ahead from the rest of him than it should have been. And he wasn't too happy about that. But what are you going to do? Something. In any case, his pelvis, by comparison, was way further back, because that's how that relationship works. And this is quite likely because he has been spending a little too much time on the cell phone, which is fun, don't get me wrong, I love them too, but hey, there's only so much you should be doing of that, and you definitely shouldn't be doing it all day, especially not in a scrunched up position in bed. But that's besides the point. Here he was, all bent forward. Now, when you bend forward like this, it changes the way gravity hits you. It's pressing down on you, which means on the posterior side, it's longer by comparison, shorter in the front, longer in the back. In any case, what that will do is will change the tissue tension in the area. So the muscles back here, these muscles that go all the way basically from top to bottom, and we often call them erector spinae, they can become very much lengthened and compensatory. They can compensate for this. So as they lengthen, what they will tend to do over a long period of time is thicken or fibrose. Either name is acceptable. They will gain tissue in an attempt to prevent further falling forward. So by their strengthening, they stop more of that from happening, which is okay temporarily. Now, when you also have this falling forward, what you will also get is a contraction of the muscles. It will increase, and it will increase as it lengthens. And this contraction is an attempt to reverse the forward falling. It's not a bad idea. It wants to do this. The only issue is, unless we correct this fully, it's not going to happen. The weight is there. It's constantly pushing. Every step, every movement you make, it's constantly pushing that head down and forward and lengthening that back. So these tissues thicken from both use and fibrosis. Now, we actually did make a change. We started to correct this problem, and we moved this guy up a bit. He was doing better. Hey, he was even happier. Ooh, I feel good. Hey, that's great. There's an ear. Anyways, the spine had started to straighten out. Pelvis not looking too shabby, but something happened during that process. So, going to a back shot, what should have been nice and straight was a bit different. It was okay, curve, and it was in that thoracolumbar transition area, which is frequently a problem. It's not the problem, but it is frequently a problem. And so that means the curvatures here are representative of the vertebrae here. Now, these were not deformed. They were simply pressed on for too long. And in any case, what this did was make it so that it was no longer stable. Let's get back to that. But notice one important thing. Couldn't be seen over here in this portion, couldn't see any of that because the musculature, thick, fibrosed musculature, was quite literally covering it, making it quite difficult to see. Maybe you could have, I couldn't. All of this tissue, all this reinforcing, contracting, thickening tissue that had all these extra fibers in there, couldn't see any of the joint. So once we got rid of that, once we effectively removed all that, we stripped it all away, we took it all away, then we could actually see where the joints were, which is great. Now, in seeing that, we determined it was unstable. Said this already. It was unstable because guess what? Boom, goes like that. Weight bearing, all out of place. And so it means that everything is side shifting. It should go nice and smooth right through the center like that. But it's not doing that anymore. It's going off center by definition. So what happens when the body does that is what we saw. When we're unstable in this area here, give or take right about there, it tends to shift forward. It collapses the spine. Instability makes things collapse structurally. It's a very normal thing. And so that means this forward posture of the head, this weight bearing down of the gravity, probably was created by this problem here. This went all the way through, basically. And if that's the case, this small thing, possibly an injury from a long time ago, created the larger curvature. Now you're probably saying, why not just go after, this guy right here? Why not just go after and beat this up until it's all straightened out and it's all moving awesome, and everything is back to perfect. Everything is totally fine again, and we're, double happy now. Ooh, wrong layer. There we go. Layer. There we go. Happy, double happy. It doesn't work. That's a problem. So when we have a big flexed forward curvature like this, the issue with that is the weight bearing down, the weight coming down into here. Layer will actually start to compress this area here, prevent movement, and it will cause local thickening and fibrosing within that region. It will cause the same thing that happened on the global spinal muscles that we talked about. So until you get rid of the big curvature, you can't even see the smaller curvature in here. And only once you've gotten rid of that smaller curvature can you permanently get rid of the big curvature. I hope that made sense. Simple Lines Anatomy.